Hi friends, the short video on how the Palestinians would have learnt from India. Well, as the conflict between Israel and Hamas rages on, we are really picked to see how many lives are being lost, more the innocents. Hamas literally lost whatever sympathy or justify their cause by killing babies and especially beheading them, which borders on the cruelty exposed by ISIS. So definitely that needs to be condemned, and whoever supports Hamas definitely needs to rethink whether they are really worth an organization at all. It really doesn't speak of humanity. I doubt if they have any human nature in them. But that is another discussion. But let's come to the main point. So if we see both Israel and India faced partition, or they came into existence as nations in around the same time, 1947-48 time frame. India became independent in 1947 and Israel was given a homeland in Palestine by the British. Again, in the case of India, it was a very, I would say, a cruel separation where a minority demanded a separate nation and the majority willingly or unwillingly, with a lot of most of the nation really looking as a bystander, the politicians without really thinking through the process what would happen if they agree for partition, on how many innocent lives would be lost. They just agreed for partition. So that was one thing, and we could see that so many innocent lives were lost in communal riots, especially in Punjab and especially on the East Coast in Calcutta. So, but still the nation survived. So India as a nation agreed, okay, even though we don't want this partition, so the minorities wanted this and we gave them. So now after nearly 75 years of independence, we can see where India stands, and another country which literally didn't want India to exist at all. It really preaches their kids right from the age of 3 the doctrine that India is a bad country and India needs to be eliminated and all Hindus are bad. You can see that that country is now in penury and really living on day-to-day existence. It's really living on the grace of Saudi Arabia and other Islamic countries, which again might revert their stance if Pakistan again goes against them and tries to become cozy with Iran or become friendly with Turkey. So that is separate another thing. But had India, similar to what Palestinians did in 1947, if they carried on the same amount of aggression against both Pakistan and Bangladesh after it came into existence in 1971, where we would have been? Definitely would have been always at war with so much of instability, and again political parties supporting one cause or the other, even though they support it for votes. But you can really imagine where India would have been now. So we agreed to be partition, even though we didn't deserve to be partition, because the Hindu majority was at least over 80-90% at that time. We still agreed, okay, they want to go separate, okay, let them go separate. So we agreed and we gave them a separate country. But Pakistan was not happy with it, and again they tried to demand more part of Indian territory. They tried to annex Kashmir. Again, they're going on waging wars since last 75 years, and now they are on the bordering of penury. If you take Palestine also, in 1948, when Israel was given a homeland, the argument of Muslim nations was, why should Israel exist in the midst of all surrounded by Muslim countries? So same argument would have been put forward by India also. What is necessary to establish a Muslim country neighboring a big majority, Hindu majority, when we had Nepal, again a Hindu neighbor, and China, which was again a Buddhist country. And if you look east of India, there we have only mostly Buddhist countries like Thailand, or for that matter, we have only a distant Philippines, which is again a Christian majority country. But there was no necessity for Pakistan to come into existence. But we really agreed. So had the Palestinians been a little bit more smarter and agreed for the existence of Israel, probably they could have benefited more. See, Israelis didn't want to annex Palestine. They said, okay, we got around majority of the territory. Okay, we want to establish our own country. So they formed Israel, and they have continued to live. Daily, every day, it's a struggle for existence for Israel as far as Israel is concerned. But still, They are surviving, they are managing. But if you take the Palestinians, they're given a part of the land, but their aim was to drive out Israel from the entire Palestine and occupy the entire Palestine. So that's where the conflict really came into being. Had they been smarter, okay, try to accept what is reality and try to go on, definitely would have been now again a developing country with a good economy. Instead, what they did in 1940s and 50s, they invited all the neighboring countries like Egypt or for that matter Syria or Jordan. So what these countries did was they entered Palestine and then they occupied Palestine land. And again Palestinians were left homeless. So that's what happened. They were refugees in their own country. By opposing Israel and try to not being friendly with the Jews and developing hatred, now they are literally homeless. Now Israel occupies most of West Bank. Again in Gaza, now it's going to be a big invasion. We don't know. We can't even imagine the level of catastrophe that's going to happen. In just a 140 square mile of territory, you can imagine 2 million people are living. So we can't even imagine what's going to happen there with no water, power. So we can't even imagine the destruction that's going to happen in Gaza. But again, it's their own creation. As you sow, you shall reap. So Palestinians, if they had learned from Indian experience, how India allowed Pakistan to survive, okay, you take that country, okay, we are happy. We want to live here, we will live here. And India is now a developing country and it's able to take an independent stance. Imagine, in the Ukraine versus Russia conflict, all developed nations sided with America, even Japan sided with America. They imposed sanctions. Only India, even before China, took a neutral stance. China, again, a big economy. Only India, China, and I think UAE agreed to be neutral. Where all other countries, either they abstained from voting or they voted with America against Russia, the UN. So that's where India stands. So by allowing Pakistan to exist, okay, fine, you live, we also live and let live policy, India has survived so far. So that is what Palestinians should have learned in 1948 itself. Instead of trying to prevent Israel from existing and trying to drive out Israelis and trying to occupy the whole of Palestine, they are a little bit more smarter and more agreed, realized the reality. They could have been a great country by now. At least let them wake up now, make friends with Israel, whatever it is, bring in all other nations and have their own country. That's the only solution for Palestinians. Otherwise, this conflict, we feel, is never going to end. It's going to keep on going.
The Jewish people have lived in the land of Israel, what is now the state of Israel, have lived here and have been attached to this place for about 3,500 years. 3.5 millennia. Now, roughly for 2,000 years, we were conquered by the Romans, we were conquered by the Byzantines. They did a lot of bad things to us, but they didn't really exile us, contrary to what people think, okay? The loss of our land actually occurred when the Arab conquest took place in the 7th century. The Arabs burst out from Arabia, and they did something that no other conqueror, not the Romans, not the Byzantines, not the Greeks before them, not Alexander the Great, nobody did before. They actually started taking over the land of the Jewish farmer. They brought in military colonies that took over the land. And gradually, over the next 2 centuries, the Jews became a minority in our land. So it is under the Arab conquest that the Jews lost their homeland. The Arabs were the colonials, the Jews were the natives dispossessed. Well, that happens in history. The Jews were dispossessed. We were flung to the far corners of the earth, suffered unimaginable suffering because we had no homeland. But we didn't disappear, and we never gave up the dream of coming back to our ancestral homeland. The Arabs who had conquered the land basically left it barren. They never made it their own. It was a barren land. It really had, practically, it was an empty land. And in the 19th century, the idea of coming back next year in Jerusalem became a reality. By the way, in part because of Christian Zionist support for the idea of the Great Return. The Jews came back in the 19th century to the land of Israel. The result of this return was that we started building farms, factories. places of employment. Arabs from nearby countries started immigrating, and they call themselves Palestinians. They reconstructed history and said, we've been here for centuries. You have no right to be here. It's our land. It's not your land. It's been our land for 3,500 years. If you took over somebody's apartment, knocked them out, dispossessed them, and they never gave up the claim. They said it's our claim, and you left this barren dump, okay? And the families, the progeny of the people you kicked out, came back, rebuilt the house. You cannot come back and tell them you don't belong here. We're going to kick you out, especially since you're latecomers who've come to live in part of the house, which is what the so-called Palestinians are. Okay, we say to them, you can live here, we can live here, but it's our land, it's our state. And the reason this conflict continues is because the Palestinians, who represent the colonial powers, the Arab conquest of the Middle East and beyond, they are saying, you have no right for a Jewish state. Well, we do. If any people has any right to a state, if any people never gave up their dreams of returning to their ancestral home, the Jews belong to this land belongs to the Jews. The Palestinians are free to live here next to us, among us, but they're not free to demand the dissolution of the Jewish state. That is not justice, that is injustice. That's the shortest lecture I can give you about Jewish history.
Hi friends, the short video on why Imran Khan is the only hope for Pakistan. You would have seen in the news where Imran Khan was attacked in a rally and he narrowly escaped, but one person was killed. And he had in fact tried to file an FIR where he did accuse that one of the people from the army was behind this. While blaming politically that the present government was in the background about this assassination attempt. But he did wanted to name an army general, but the police once again refused to add the name of the general in the FIR. But if you look back in the politics of Pakistan, the last few months, the army has really taken hiding. They're trying to, recently they convened a press conference where they announced that Imran Khan was unnecessarily blaming the army and trying to tarnish its name. Never before in Pakistani politics has this happened. Normally, like Pakistan army is one of their three pillars, Allah, army and America. They are the main three pillars of Pakistan, and one of them is the army. No one dares to oppose the Pakistani army. And Imran Khan is the first person who has openly opposed the Pakistani army. And since he has public support, now the Pakistani army is literally wary of him. They tried to finish him off, but that didn't happen to Imran Khan's good fortune. Probably if he had been killed, it would have been silenced and it might have gone to rest. But definitely Imran Khan seems to have public's backing by his recent victories in the normal by-elections. And now, why we feel the government is lot more afraid of Imran Khan is they have banned him from contesting in future elections. So that itself shows that the Pakistani army is jittery over Imran Khan. Because same thing Karnanidhi, I remember he did against Jayalalitha in 2001. So he made her nomination get rejected in I think 2 or 3 constituencies where she tried to contest. So by preventing her from becoming chief minister again, he thought contesting, he thought okay, he can really get votes, but that didn't happen. So and again, Jayalalitha went to the people that it is unnecessarily she has been prevented from contesting, and she won the wave of sympathy, and again she brought the ADMK back to power. So that is one thing about Jayalalitha. But coming back to Imran Khan, definitely seems to be the man of the masses. He has been able to mobilize the people, public opinion against the army. So far, the army, despite losing all wars against India, it's the big institution in Pakistan. No one really dares to oppose the army because whatever the army says, that's the final word. But in this case, when they ousted Imran Khan, they didn't realize that they have a fight in their hands. Normally, all political leaders are mere puppets in the hands of the Pakistani army. But Imran Khan was a different person, so he didn't take it kindly, and he ensured that he had public support, and he did organize a rally against the current government. And now he wants them to announce elections so they can contest and again come back to power. And both the army and the current government seem to know that if they prevent him from, if they allow him to contest, he might again come back to power. So to prevent that, they banned him from contesting. It's just a flimsy ground that normally the Pakistani chief minister can take the gifts, whatever he gets while on tour, and at some concessional rates, and then he can sell it. So he made a huge killing from that. So he got the gifts which he obtained when he was prime minister, when he went abroad, and he got it concession rate, and then he sold it, and that was the accusation by the army and others, which again it doesn't hold water, because that is very minimal corruption compared with other corruption indulged in by the generals and others. So definitely the Pakistan army is very jittery about Imran Khan. I think he is the only one, I feel, that if he continues stride against the army, definitely he can reform Pakistan and can do some good to Pakistan in the long term. Because whatever any rapprochement that India and Pakistan tried to make was always scuttled by the army and the deep state, the ISI. So if Imran Khan successfully battles against the army and its influence and succeeds, there's nothing like that for the good of Pakistan. So let's see if he succeeds and brings in good to Pakistan, at least to reduce rivalry and forge some friendship. But of course, friendship cannot happen. But at least rivalry and all this insurgency can little bit be reduced in Kashmir. Let's hope for the best. Life thrives on hope. Let's see if it succeeds. Thanks for watching. இந்த வீடியோ உங்களுக்கு பிடிச்சிருந்தா லைக் பண்ணுங்க, ஷேர் பண்ணுங்க, சப்ஸ்கிரைப் பண்ணுங்க. Thanks.